In the 5th Perek of Rambam's Shemonah Perakim, he really takes the next step. That is to say, in the first 4 Perakim, Rambam talks about the human neshama, what its functions are, and what a sick neshama looks like, how to correct it, right, by following the golden mean. And then finally we get to the 5th Perek. And in the 5th Perek, Rambam articulates in no uncertain terms what is the point of our living. What is the central goal to which we are all striving? And that is to know God. And just to read his words, again, translated, it says, "It is the duty of man to subordinate all the faculties of his soul to his reason. He must keep his mind's eye fixed constantly upon one goal, namely the attainment of the knowledge of God, may he be blessed, as far as it is possible for mortal man to know him. Consequently, one must so adjust all his actions, his whole conduct, and even his very words, that they lead to this goal, in order that none of his deeds be aimless, and thus retard the attainment of that end. Namely," and Rambam says this at the very end of this parak, "Bekol drachecha de'eu." He's quoting Mishlei. He says, "In all of your ways, know him." And that is the central idea that he's articulating here, that in all of your activities, you should come to know God, you should come to close to him, direct everything you do for him. And in fact, Rambam actually paskins this idea lahalacha in his Mishnah Torah. This is quoted by Rav Aaron Lichtenstein by his lights, page 31, at least in my edition. And he says, a person must direct every single one of his deeds solely towards attaining knowledge of God. His sitting down, his standing up, and his speech should all be directed toward this goal. Even when he sleeps, if he sleeps with the intention of resting his mind and body so that he does not become sick, for he is unable to serve the Lord when he is sick, his sleep shall become a service of God. Concerning this, Chazal commanded in Pirkei Avot 2:12, "Let all your deeds be for the sake of heaven." That is what Shlomo said in his wisdom in Mishlei, "In all your ways know him," right? And he will make your paths straight. And Rambam he paskins this in Hilchot Deot, Perek Gimel, right? It's the 3rd Perek, halachas bet ad Gimel. So halachas 2 to 3. So very particular, the Rambam is saying everything that you do must be directed towards God. That is the goal. That is the goal. That's what we're looking to work towards. And in fact, this concept is actually also articulated in a Mishnah in Pirkei Avot that we will hopefully see. That is to say, the Mishnah, just in general terms, speaks about people who are eating together, but they're not exchanging Divrei Torah, and the Mishnah has very negative things to say about that. And the question is, why? Why can't we just eat and enjoy and get close together and build a relationship together? But the idea here is like this. If a person is sitting and eating, and he doesn't at least have some aspect of avoda at that table, like in mind as he's eating in order to energize his body, then what's the whole purpose? What's the goal here? Is it just to enjoy in order to build relationships for themselves? Is there no end goal? Is there no ultimate or higher purpose? And here Rambam really in the 2nd paragraph goes through different steps, and these are pretty incredible the way he just kind of built it up. He says a person, when he eats, sleeps, when he engages in intimacy, when he's walking about, moving around, or even when he's resting, all of that that's good. That's for the preservation of the health of one's body, right? And so what's the point of that? And that directs us, if a person is healthy of mind and body, then he'll be able to acquire wisdom, and he'll be able to grow in his moral and intellectual virtues. So that's great. But he doesn't stop there, and he says, okay, but all of those, what that's directed towards? That's directed towards knowing him. And this is that final step of knowing God, of coming close to God. That is a central idea in Torah. And this is one of the ideas that Rambam is really trying to articulate before we get into Pirkei Avot. As he says, this applies not only in terms of physical health, and in terms of becoming an intellectual heavyweight. He says, even with the pursuit of wealth, he says it's not meant for its own sake. However, it is meant to accomplish, and just quoting his words, a person, he's not saying don't acquire wealth. That's a terrible thing. He says acquire wealth. But what's the point of acquiring wealth? Not so you could have $1 million in the bank. It's in order to use that wealth in order to acquire malice, to become a better person, to help other people, and ultimately to become closer to God through, of course, helping other people, being of utility to your community, of course, supporting your family, helping as many people as you possibly can. That's the point of accumulating resources. It's not just for accumulating resources for its own sake. Now, in summary, these things, whatever we pursue, right? People will be extremely diligent about their diet, about their workout schedule, about making sure that they look great, that they're dressed well. Rambam doesn't oppose any of that. He's like, that's fine, as long as it's oriented towards our ultimate goal. And that, says Rambam, is ultimately what actually makes us human. That's what separates the men from animals. Animals also would love to stockpile food. In fact, many animals do, in fact, stockpile food, right? But the point is, it's just for their own survival. We need to be better than animals. And just to continue to articulate that, he even quotes a Gemara in Brachot that says, if you want a nice house, that's great. The Gemara in fact endorses that. But the whole point of having a nice house is in order to give you is in order to kind of relax you and help you focus more on more important things. And perhaps a good analogy is like this: when a person buys a tool, if you were to see a worker and he had like a tool, like a hammer in his box, it was a really fancy hammer, but it's so fancy that he doesn't actually want to use it, then I mean, what's the point of having the hammer? If you go to a professional's office and he has this really cool, neat pen, but the pen keeps spilling ink blobs all over the paper he's supposed to be signing, it just gets in the way. Like, yes, it looks very nice, but it's not helping him accomplish his task. It's fine to have a really nice fancy pen. It's nice to have a nice house, but is it distracting us? If it's distracting us, or if it's getting in the way, then that's not what we're meant to have it for. We should get rid of it, and we should get something that's much more functional. It could still be nice, it could still look good, it could still be pretty, if you will. However, the point is, it's not supposed to get in the way of us doing our vote, of us doing our work. Right? Work, either our paid work, our professional work, or of course our ultimate work, our avodah Hashem. And in fact, Rav Aaron Lichtenstein clearly articulates this. He says, regardless of how one wants to define the term, he's talking about Yirat Shamayim, he says, it denotes that the totality of a person's existence is oriented towards his relationship with God, towards Avodah Hashem. That's what the totality of our existence is about. Every single thing that we do, every asset that we own, every action, every word that we say is meant to bring us closer to God. And by the way, Rambam says this is an extremely high level to achieve. Very few people actually achieve it. However, that doesn't exempt us from trying to get to that level. Now, there are two mushals I'd like to give, and these are, I think, pretty. One at least is common. There's that of the fisherman. There's this guy who's fishing, and he's getting, he's doing pretty good. He's able to support his family. So this businessman sees him, and he's like, hey, I noticed that you're doing pretty well. Why don't you buy another boat and hire another fisherman to help you with, getting more fish? So the fisherman says, well, why would I do that? So the businessman says, oh, well, because if you hire another worker and you get another boat, then you could bring in more fish. And so the fisherman's like, okay, why do I want more fish? He's like, I have enough to feed my family. So the businessman, because then you could sell the fish, and then by selling the fish, you can actually afford to buy more boats and hire more workers and get even more fish. So the fisherman says, okay, what's the point of that? He's like, because ultimately, says the businessman, you'll be able to get a whole fleet. You'll have this huge fleet, and you'll be able to get all this money. It's amazing. You'll have all these resources, and things will be great. And then the fisherman's like, well, that sounds like a lot of work. I mean, what's the point of doing that? So the businessman's like, because once you have this huge fleet, then you could find this amazing island, and you could go and you could just hang out, and you could do whatever you want, like fishing. And so the fisherman looks at him, and he's like, but that's what I'm doing right now. Why would I work so hard to just do what I'm doing right now? And the idea is like, it's a very cute, funny little story. The lesson learned here is like this. Rambam is saying, build a business. That's fine. Everything is great. However, the point isn't that you could just languish and have a great time and be proud of the fact that you've built an awesome business. The idea here is, now that you've built that business, you can help other people. But moreover, as you're building that business, if you engage honestly in business, and you'll be able to inspire other people also to engage honestly in business. And in that way, not only you'll be supporting people with the money you make, but all the money you'll make will be kosher money, if you will. And the things that really help you pursue your ultimate goal of coming close to God. And that is to say, acting in the way that the Torah approves of in a moral, upright manner. And now, what is the purpose, again, of all that? All these things, coming close to God, what does that look like? So, Rav Aaron Feldman articulates this standard very clearly. He says, in terms of, because we were speaking most about business, but even Rambam quotes the attaining, again, of good health in order to acquire wisdom and moral intellectual virtues. Isn't that good enough? Just the idea of being a cerebral person? So says Rav Aaron Feldman very clearly in The Juggler and the King, he says, all of the book was written, as explained above, in a manner which will make it interesting and enjoyable. I will consider my efforts to have ended in failure if it offers no greater benefits to the reader than literary and intellectual enjoyment, or even the sensations of spiritual elevation. The concepts of the Torah are meant not merely to edify us, but to create mindsets which are carried out into action. The true purpose of this book will therefore only be realized if the reader incorporates its ideas into his heart, mind, and daily activities. It is my fervent prayer that this book will have such an effect and will thereby contribute to fulfilling the Jewish mission on earth. And what is that mission? So he says the Jew's purpose on earth is to control the juggler. That just means pursuit of materialism and prestige, right? To control the juggler within himself and to direct himself not towards folly, but towards accomplishing the goals set for him by the King of Kings. That is our ultimate goal. It is to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It is Bekol Drachei Chadeu. It is to serve him in everything that we do. That is the central idea that's being articulated by Rambam in the 5th Perek.